Welcome to the playlist on Class 8 History. In this video, we will cover Chapter 1, How, When and Where. If you look at these three words, how, when and where, these are the primary words associated with history or any past event. For example, how did that happen? When did that happen? And where it happened? These are all past events. Of course, from grammar point of view, you can always use these three words for future events like how is it going to happen, when will it happen, and where is it going to take place. So all of this are future events. Since we are reading history here, so we will stick to the past events. The first topic of this chapter is how important are dates. When we read history, we see a lot of dates, and this is the reason history is boring, because it gets difficult to remember so many dates. So you must understand that history is much more than dates. It's actually a comparison of past and present, what happened versus what it is now. And when you are curious enough to do that comparison, only then you will start to find history interesting. For example, when you drink tea, you could ask a question: when did people begin to drink tea? How did tea plantations started in India? Notice there were two sets of questions, that is when and how. The how part is the explanation or reason, and the when part is the date we are asking for. So history is associated with dates, which makes a comparison easier. However, you need to understand that there can be no one clear date for any event to occur. Since we do not have any solid historical proof to determine the actual time, therefore we have to rely on an approximate period over which particular changes became visible. For example, we cannot fix one single date on which British rule was established. I mean, we know that East India Company came to India first in 1608 and then they started ruling India from 1757 onwards. But we cannot fix one date on which British rule started. We have an approximate date. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. Now the next topic is a crucial one. By what criteria do we choose a set of dates as important? So you need to understand that, first of all, not all the historical dates are important. So the ones that are important is purely due to the event that occurred during that time. For example, the date 1608 doesn't make any sense if we did not link it with arrival date of East India Company. Therefore, it's the event that makes a date important. Now that I have said this, I can also say that if our focus of study changes, if we begin to look at new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. Meaning, if we give importance to any particular event, due to that, we can create importance of a particular date. I hope that made sense. So personally, when I read this line, it makes me think how many of such events of our history are not recognized, just because we haven't given much importance to them, and due to which we must have missed so many important dates. We never know, right? What I have said could be true. Anyways, that was just for you to think. Now we have a very good example here. If you see, most of histories in India were written by British historians because they were the rulers and they were highly educated. These historians began their writings with the rule of the first Governor General, Warren Hastings, and ended with the last Viceroy, Lord Mountbatten. Most of the content were associated with these personalities who were Governor Generals, and it used to be all about their activities, policies, achievements, etc. It was as if there was nothing else important apart from these personalities. And I think this is not a correct way of drafting history. But now you know that we can write about the history in a different way, such as different groups and classes in Indian society during the reign of so-and-so Governor General. Now whenever we write history or any story, we divide it into chapters so that it's easy to cover each topic in detail. It should make sense and can be followed in forming the big picture. And most of the time in a story, the events usually occur around a particular character. So this is what is the problem, because in the histories written by the British historians, most of the content is around the life of British Governor Generals and their lives, their duties, their lavish livings and all of those things. The activities of Indians simply do not fit with their stories. Indians had no space. Hence we need another format of our history where all the events are related to India. This would mean that old dates will no longer have the importance they earlier had. A new set of dates will become more important for us to know. Just like we read in the beginning, if we give importance to any particular event, automatically the date associated with that even becomes important as well. So if we have to start a new format of the history, how do we set the timeline? Let's look at one approach done by James Mill in 1817. What he did was he divided the Indian history into three periods, that is Hindu, Muslim and British. The reason behind this was, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim ruled the country, which is true. There was a lot of discrimination based on religion, caste and superstition activities, and which was the way life back then. So with all of this reason, James Mill thought only British rule could civilize India and help India get out of all the social stigma. He also felt it was necessary to introduce European manners, arts, institutions and laws in India. Basically what he meant was, in India, the time before British rule was full of darkness, and after the British arrived, India started progressing and got civilized. Now this kind of meaning cannot be accepted today, primarily because of the fact that there was no single period of history referred to as Hindu or Muslim. Both the faith existed together in these periods. And if you see rulers like Akbar, who was very tolerant towards Hindu faith, he even had a Hindu finance minister named Todar Mal. So there is no point in categorizing a period based on the religion of a ruler. Hence we discard the British classification of Indian history. Now another division came up where the Indian history was divided into ancient, medieval and modern. The reason behind this division is to present a transition from ancient to modern period, wherein how society developed and moved towards growth like science, reason, democracy, liberty and equality. But again, this kind of division has a problem as well. According to this division, when we say the society is moving from ancient to modern, that was not completely true, because the modern period is associated with British rule. And if you see, people did not really have equality, freedom or liberty, and there wasn't any economic growth or progress. That's why historians refer the British period as colonial period and not modern period. So what is the meaning of the word colonial? It means establishment of a colony in one territory by a political power from another territory. So the moment British took over India, India became a colony. This entire class 8 history book is about how British took control over India, its economy and society as well. And also we will read about the changes British rule brought about in values and tastes, customs and practices. Now the big question is, how do historians write history? What are the sources they refer? There has to be some proof or evidence that can guide them, especially about last 250 years of Indian history. So the answer to that question is the official record of the British administration. Any official documents serve as an evidence or proof. I think we all can agree on that. And one good thing about British was that they believed in the act of writing. Every instruction, plan, policy decision, agreement, investigation had to be clearly written up. So that's a good thing, because if we write down things, we can later on study further or debate on it. So this is something the British did religiously. They made reports and notes of almost everything. Now I want you to imagine this. If you write everything, then you must also keep it safe, right? Therefore, the British made a record room in all of their administrative institutions to preserve all important documents and letters. Now this is another important step they took. And today if you look around in schools, hospitals, offices, everywhere you will have a record room or an administrative office that keeps all the documents and information safe. Now you can think about it, how this idea came and from where it came. In Delhi, we have the National Museum and the National Archives. It is a record room in which all the documents and letters of the government and various administrators have been arranged as per the date. This place has all the documents from 18th century preserved in good condition. One beautiful thing to notice about documents that the British produced, they were written by calligraphists. These people have beautiful handwritings, and with the introduction of printing machines, these records with such beautiful handwritings go printed in several copies, and they were all spread around. That's how each government department started using similar handwriting for official letters, so that one could easily look at the letter and identify its importance based on the handwriting. Apart from writing records and building record rooms, the British did another important thing, which is conducting surveys. It was a common act under the colonial administration. And look at this line over here. The British believed that a country had to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. Now, don't you think this is true for everything that you do? If I have to give an example, if you want to sell a product to someone, you will have to know everything about the product to educate someone. Only then you can easily sell the product. Therefore, the whole idea of knowing a country could be possible through massive surveys. Surveys can gather information through different methods of observation. If you see today, the government does many surveys for implementing social and economic schemes and policies. The biggest survey we all can remember is the census, which is done in every 10 years to record the population of a country. By the early 19th century, the British conducted detailed surveys and they literally mapped the entire country. I want you to understand how systematically they did all of this. In the villages, revenue surveys were conducted. These are done to know the income capacity of a particular place. It is also to know the topography, the soil quality, the flora, the fauna, the local histories, and the cropping pattern. All these facts are important for proper administration. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. These prepared detailed records of the number of people in all the provinces of India, noting information on castes, religions, and occupation. There were many other surveys: botanical survey, zoological survey, archaeological surveys, anthropological surveys, forest surveys. Just imagine all these data would be so helpful to monitor a nation and its resources, and that is what the British did. Now let's understand the last topic of this chapter. Till now we have read about what historians do, how they write history, what are the importance of official documents, reports, what were the systematic approach the British took for proper administration. Now we'll read about what the official records do not tell. This is an interesting turning point in this chapter, so try to understand this carefully. Always remember, official records tell us about the official thoughts. That is what the British officials and government wanted. These records do not tell anything about what the common people in the country felt and what they wanted. And to get these information, we have to look somewhere else. We will not find them in official records. So where can we find them? They can be found in personal diaries of peoples, accounts of pilgrims and travelers, then autobiographies of important personalities, then popular booklets that were sold in local bazaar during that time. Because printing press was active during that time, hence there must have been many copies of popular booklets, ideas, opinions that were published. So we need to look at them and then try to come up with a possible conclusion. And again, all these reports, documents, letters were written by those who were literates. Therefore, it will be difficult to understand the people who were not literates, like the tribals and the peasants, the workers in the mines, or the poor on the streets. Getting to know their lives is a more difficult task. And going forward, we will read about how this can be done. With this, we have come to an end of this chapter. The question answers can be found on the website. Link to that is in the description as well as in the info card. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.